Hey folks, everything new under the sun. A new article came up about the supply chain on Zero Hedge. I want to talk about it for a short period here. So, the supply chain, of course, generally speaking, comes from Asia, goes to North America, and North America products go over to Asia. And so you have these ships, container ships, going back and around in a great circle from China to North America, etc. Obviously, I'm simplifying it. Ships are going to a lot of other countries, but North America is a massive, massive consumer of Chinese goods, and in fact, the whole world is a large consumer of all sorts of Chinese goods. And should China lock down its ports, that's going to create a significant issue. And there's a few different factors that are going to be weighing in to the situation and making it even worse. So we're at a time when inflation is ever increasing, economic collapse is ever closer. The tops in the stock market are just incredible, looking like 1929 all over again. And then in China, you have the Beijing Olympics coming up. They're trying to go for zero COVID, but now we have this Omicron variant, which is very, very transmissible. And yet China is still locking down cities. Xi'an was it 13 million people? Correct me if I'm wrong. Trying to go for zero COVID policy and trying to clean up, quote unquote, the country before the Olympics. And the problem is that Omicron is a different beast. You're not going to be able to get zero COVID. Countries around the world, including where I am, have realized that it's now endemic. But China has never shown that they would be ever willing to manage this or deal with it. They've always had a zero COVID policy all through this. They don't want to let it go through their country, their population, because there will be a massive uprise if all of a sudden everybody got sick at the same time. They wouldn't be able to handle it. And they have millions upon millions of people that are living right on top of each other. And so it would spread like wildfire even faster than in Western countries because they're just so condensed. The population is so dense that it would rip through their population and cause all sorts of trouble. So not only are they locking down prior to the Olympics, but they're going to continue to do that. They're not going to stop a zero COVID policy. They're not going to change the policy because the chance of civil unrest is too great if you have a lot of people getting sick all at the same time, just like Omicron is doing in the UK, in North America. So this is a very real issue. This is the article here. Global economy heading for mother of all supply chain shocks as China locks down ports. Now, if China wants to stop the spread, and they've never looked like they ever want to go for zero COVID policy. That means if it continues to spread and Omicron is going to get around any measure that China attempts to do, that means they're going to lock down ports. And if they keep ports locked down, they're going to slow Omicron, but that'll only extend and elongate the time of the whole situation because they're going to flatten the curve. Less people will be getting Omicron, but they're going to have to keep their ports shut down and all their cities shut down and their manufacturing shut down for that much longer as they really push out this wave and slow the spread of Omicron. So you're talking not weeks, but months that they would have to do this to continue a zero COVID policy. And as I keep saying, they've shown no interest in doing anything other than zero COVID policy. You think after the Olympics that they're all of a sudden going to let Omicron roll through the country? No, they're not going to do that. The communist government is absolutely and rightly scared of mass civil unrest and uprising due to starvation and people being off work sick, a general shutdown. Not only that, the whole world has no interest in China shutting down. They need to control it, but they have no way to manage it. The vaccines don't work. Omicron gets around all those and makes people sick enough that they shouldn't be going to work. And of course, you're going to be on lockdown anyways, self-isolation, etc. This is a big, big deal, and this could very well be the trigger point of the major economic collapse. Over the past month, as Wall Street turned increasingly optimistic on U.S. growth alongside the Fed with consensus now virtually certain of a March rate hike, we have been repeatedly warned that after a huge policy error in 2021, when the Fed erroneously said that inflation is transitory, the central bank is on pace to make another just as big policy mistake in 2022. As we have also discussed, one place where growth is a slowdown is emerging, besides the upcoming deterioration in U.S. consumption, is China. And what are they stating? It's COVID zero policy in general, and it's COVID locked down ports in particular. This is going to cause massive trouble in the supply chains. This is going to affect the world. This is going to affect you. This is bigger than the first time. The original spreads and strains of COVID were easier, quote unquote, to limit and lock down. Omicron is spreading like wildfire, and it doesn't matter if you lock down or not. It's going. And countries around the world realize that because it's so transmissible. But they're still going for it. But what until recently was a minority view confined to our modest website has since expanded to Bloomberg. The effect of restrictions in China as the country maintains COVID zero policy are starting to hit supply chains in the region. That's going to hit supply chains everywhere. And if Omicron takes off, the country will lock down even further, and we'll have even fewer products being shipped around the world from China and back to China. We won't even be able to get products to China. You're going to have starvation because foods and grains are not going to be going to China, and you're going to have no products, computer chips, etc., components to build anything coming to North America or any other country. This is not just a week-long event. This is going to be a months-long event. Sailing schedules already facing delays of about a week. This is before they're really locking down everything, and the lockdown is only going to continue. Best case scenario up until and through the Olympics, but likely after that as well. HSBC economists are warning that the world economy could be headed for a mother of all supply chain shocks. Temporary, one would hope, but hugely disruptive. Hugely disruptive. If they lock down the ports, that's going to back up all the products, goods, and services. It's going to kill the global economy. It's going to stop the global economy in its tracks, because pretty much everything you buy, sell, or trade has some component or piece of it that has gone through China or in Asia somewhere, and is going to be affected by any Chinese lockdowns and any zero COVID policies by the Chinese government. So China's first Omicron outbreak was detected in the city of Tianjin over the weekend. On the morning January 8th, 2 patients in Tianjin who actively sought medical treatment were confirmed as being infected with Omicron. This is the big variant that China does not want to see. It's going to go like wildfire, as I keep saying. The source of the local cases is still unknown. Community transmission is possible, according to local disease control officials, and I would think that's absolutely true. More alarmingly, the same Omicron virus strain has already spread outside Tianjin. They can't contain it. This means it's going to go to the population. This means the communist government is going to be very, very concerned, worried about civil unrest, food shortages, etc. Looking at recent data, China's COVID outbreak this winter could be worse than the previous year. The total number of new cases in the past 14 days in Shanxi has already exceeded 1,500, which is a record high, and it's probably higher than that, as we all know. The provinces hit by COVID outbreaks this year also tend to have higher GDP and population density, this population density thing, this makes them basically a sitting duck for the spread of Omicron, which is super hyper transmissible, if you want to term it that. It's less severe, but if it gets everybody at once, that's a big problem. That's why countries around the world are trying to slow it down. This also brings us to what Bloomberg calls a paradox of China's aggressive COVID zero strategy. While on the one hand it helps contain the virus, to do so usually requires significant disruption or lockdowns as authorities limit the movement of people. This means the lockdown of the supply chain. Goods and services, base products, manufacturing, components, etc., all on complete lockdown in China. And this is not a 1 week event. This is not a 2 week event. This is not a month-long event, as they continue to chase COVID zero policy because of their own civilians and the communist government's interest in not causing any civilian uprise and significant slowdown, which would collapse their economy, let alone the world economy. This is a big deal, folks. This is coming down the pipe. this is something to be concerned about. This is something to get your ducks in order for, to get ready for, to prepare for. Do you need anything that is going to require any components from China? And think about every product that you have in your house. Pretty much every product has some piece of it, plastics, computer chips, whatever, even batteries, lithium ion, precious metals, rare earth metals. All these things come from China, or a large percentage of them pass through, or are built, or manufactured, are dug up and mined in China. So as this comes down the pipe, this is going to cause the grinding halt to the world economy. So this is probably the most significant piece of news that I've seen, for 2022. And Bloomberg is calling it. Zero Hedge is calling it. This could be an absolute traffic jam, as they say, an epic shipping traffic jam, as nothing goes in or out. And like I said, this is not going to be a week long. This is going to be a prolonged situation of lockdown. Be prepared, guys. This is big news, and you just need to be ready for it. Have your hearts in order. Make sure you know Lord Jesus Christ as your personal Lord and Savior. He's coming again to judge the world, but before that, the tribulation. The first 3.5 years are the tribulation that I believe we go through, and the trouble on the earth, 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. The last 3.5 years are the wrath of God, when he finally deals with the evil and the sin in the world. But first, the Antichrist is going to come, and he's going to present the mark of the beast and say that he can fix everything. Once all this collapses, or starts going down at least, he's going to come in and say, look, I can fix this before it completely breaks, accept the mark of the beast, etc., etc. And so there will be significant worldwide calamities and catastrophes, and this all sets the stage for the Antichrist to come in and say, look, I can fix this. All you need to do is this: pledge allegiance to me, take the mark of the beast, and everybody become a good world citizen. We can fix this together. Man can do it. No turning back to God, just blaspheming God and saying we can do it on our own. And for that first 3.5 years, it's going to be, well, it's not going to be hell. Hell is far worse, but it's going to be very troublesome, very apocalyptic. When the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse ride, we ain't seen nothing yet. This is all a warm-up, folks. Are you prepared? This is a warning from God, saying, you know what? I'm giving you this opportunity. Pay attention. What I'm saying is coming to pass, and will come to pass 10 times what you're seeing now. Get prepared. Thanks for watching, folks. I'll leave it there. We'll see you in the next video.